The city noise never quite reached this apartment. It was old, silent, where every creak of the floorboards felt like a secret being told. My own footsteps echoed in the empty halls like whispers, and I told myself the silence was a good thing, a escape. But silence has a way of making you listen to things you shouldn't. It started. On the third night, a sound so faint, I almost missed it, a soft, rhythmic breathing. I'd turn around and there'd be nothing, just me and the stark, empty room. I'd walk into the kitchen and the sound would follow, always seeming to come from just over my shoulder. It's just stress, I told myself. The pressure of the move, the new job. My brain is playing tricks on me. One evening, I was standing by the window, watching. The city lights flicker on when I heard it again. Inhale, exhale. I glanced at my own shadow, stretched long and thin across the floor by the lamplight, and then I saw it. My heart stopped, the chest of my shadow. It was rising and falling, ever so slightly, but it was there. I let out a nervous laugh. "Okay, that's enough," I mumbled, trying to brush it off as a trick of the light, a play of my own imagination. "You're losing it." Just to prove myself wrong, I took a deep breath and held it. My own lungs burned for air, my heart hammered against my ribs, but the shadow on the floor, it kept breathing. Inhale, exhale, a slow, steady rhythm that was not my own. The lamp flickered violently, just for a second. In that split second of strobing darkness, I swear I saw it, the shadow. Its head was turned, facing the opposite direction, facing away from me. I froze, rooted to the spot. The air in the room plunged, a sudden, biting cold that had nothing to do with the autumn weather outside. A shiver traced its way down my spine. This wasn't in my head. This was real. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone, my fingers slipping on the screen. I had to record this. I needed proof that I wasn't going crazy. I aimed the camera at the floor, my thumb hovering over the record button. But when I looked at the screen, there was nothing there. Just me, standing alone in an empty room. No shadow. The next morning, a soft, hesitant knock echoed through the apartment. It was my neighbor from across the hall, an elderly woman with kind, worried eyes. "Excuse me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "You're the new tenant in 3B, aren't you?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "Yes, just moved in." Her eyes darted past me into the apartment, then back to my face. That's where he disappeared. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. "Who?" I asked, my voice coming out strained. "The last tenant," she said, pulling her robe tighter. "A young man just like you. The police came. They searched for weeks. All they ever found was his shadow." I slammed the door, my back pressing against the wood. The neighbor's words echoed in the silence. All they ever found was his shadow. The sun set and the apartment grew dark. I sat on the floor, my knees pulled to my chest, staring at the wall where my shadow should be. And then the breathing returned. It wasn't faint anymore. It was loud. A heavy, labored sound that filled the room, perfectly in sync with the frantic drumming of my own heart. Panic set in. I had to get rid of it. I rushed around the apartment, pulling curtains shut, blocking every sliver of moonlight from the window. I turned off every lamp, unplugged the TV, even covered the little red light on the microwave. The room was plunged into absolute, suffocating blackness, but it didn't work. Against the far wall, a faint, sickly glow began to form, outlining the familiar shape. My shape. A voice slithered out from the wall, a dry, rasping whisper that sounded like my own, but twisted and wrong. "Stop pretending," it said. "Stop pretending you're not me." A scream tore from my throat. I stumbled backward, crashing into a standing mirror. My reflection stared back, eyes wide with terror. But behind my reflection in the glass, the shadow was different. It was closer. It wasn't mimicking my movements anymore. It was moving on its own. In a frenzy, I grabbed the nearest heavy object, a book, and hurled it at the mirror. It shattered into 1,000 pieces, each one reflecting a different angle of the horror. In one shard, the shadow was taking a step forward. In another, its hand was raising. I smashed every mirror in the apartment, every reflective surface I could find, but it was no use. With each shattered piece, the image of the shadow drew nearer. Desperate, I searched online, my fingers flying across the keyboard. Man's shadow moves on its own. I found it, an old newspaper article, digitized from microfiche. The headline read, "Local man dies mysteriously in apartment. Shadow continues to move." The article was short on details, but the address. It was this address, apartment 3B. My blood ran cold. There was only one person I could think to call. A priest arrived within the hour, a stern-faced man clutching a worn Bible. He walked through the apartment, chanting prayers and sprinkling holy water. I watched, clinging to a sliver of hope. He seemed unfazed, telling me it was likely a residual energy, a psychic imprint left behind. He assured me I would be fine. He turned to leave, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But as he stepped out into the hallway, I saw it, his shadow. It didn't follow him. It peeled away from his feet and stayed behind, melting into the darkness of my apartment. The night deepened. The breathing was everywhere now, an oppressive, suffocating presence that filled every corner, every crack in the walls. It was inside my head. Then the impossible happened. The shadow, my shadow, began to detach from the wall. It peeled away like old paint, its edges wavering as it took on a three-dimensional form. It stepped forward into the room, a creature of pure darkness. It glided towards me, silent, its form absorbing the dim light. It raised a cold, weightless hand and gently touched my face. I felt a final, ragged breath leave my body. Morning light crept in through the cracks in the curtains. The apartment was silent again, utterly, completely silent, on the wall where there had once been one. Shadow, there were now two, hanging side by side like macabre portraits. And as the camera moves closer, one of them, the newer one, takes a slow, deep, living breath,